When we hear the word infrastructure, we usually think of the physical systems that move people and cargo. But a modern economy relies on an invisible, parallel network. Instead of moving cars and trucks, this system moves money. We call it financial infrastructure. Without this network, people default to storing value physically. A classic example is a traditional clay piggy bank, or gulag, stuffed with spare coins and folded notes. The problem with the clay pot is that the money sits completely idle. It is cut off from the wider economy. For money to actually do work, to help a business open or a factory produce goods, it cannot stay parked under a bed. It needs a road to travel on. The most important on-ramp to that economic highway is the bank. There is a common misconception that banks simply create money out of thin air to hand out as loans. In reality, they are highly regulated middlemen. This flowchart illustrates how the bridge operates. On the left side, everyday savers bring deposits to a secure location. The bank channels those pooled deposits across the bridge, lending them to businesses who need capital to grow. By connecting people who have surplus cash with people who need cash, the bank keeps money in constant motion. That continuous flow is what actually drives a nation's economic growth. To convince people to put their hard-earned cash onto this bridge, banks offer a mathematical incentive called interest. It is effectively a toll paid to you for the right to use your money. The math behind this reward can scale with surprising speed. Think of the old legend of the Indian king and the traveling sage. The sage asked for a reward of a single grain of rice on the first square of a chessboard, doubling on every subsequent square. By the 32nd square, the number exceeded 2 billion grains. This graph compares how that exact math applies to your savings. Simple interest pays you a fixed amount on your original deposit, creating a predictable, straight diagonal line. Compound interest calculates your payout on the principal plus all previous interest, creating a sharp upward curve. Time is the actual fuel for this equation. Given enough years, compound interest accelerates small, patient deposits into massive wealth. So how do you choose your entry point onto this financial network? This matrix plots out how every bank account balances two competing factors: liquidity, meaning how quickly you can withdraw your cash without a penalty, and growth, or your interest rate. Businesses running daily operations need constant access to cash. They use current accounts, which offer extremely high liquidity but pay exactly zero interest. If you don't need your money anytime soon, you choose a fixed deposit. You lock your funds away for years, dropping your liquidity, but securing the highest rate of compound growth. For most everyday uses, people choose a savings account. It sits directly in the center, allowing moderate access to cash while still earning a modest return. There is no perfect one-size-fits-all account. The correct choice depends entirely on whether you need to spend the cash this week or multiply it for the next decade. Let's test these concepts with a practical scenario. Imagine a student named Nisha, who has saved 30,000 rupees from her part-time job. She faces two financial realities. First, she has to pay exactly 10,000 rupees in 12 months for a computer course. Second, she will not need to touch the remaining 20,000 rupees for at least 3 full years. Look at her timeline. How would you divide and store her money to maximize her returns without risking her tuition? This split-screen visualization maps the optimal solution. 10,000 rupees goes into a savings account because she requires liquidity for next year's course. The remaining 20,000 belongs in a fixed deposit. By locking it away, she rides the curve of compound interest across that 3-year gap. Banks serve as the primary engine of this dynamic infrastructure, using the math of compounding to transform today's small savings into the capital required for tomorrow's economic growth.